The name of our railroad is the Shelby and Sparta Railroad. Shelby, Ohio is Jack's hometown, and Sparta, Kentucky is my hometown. But let's back up a bit. It all started with a visit to AmeriFlora, an international garden show in Columbus, Ohio. We saw and heard the German exhibit, which had a marvelous garden railway designed by landscape architect Paul Busse. Cecil fell in love with it. The next thing that happened, we were on our way to a Columbus Symphony concert and passed by the Great American Train store in City Center and paid full retail price for a circus train by LGB. Later finding out we could have bought it at half that at Watts Train Store. 95, we attended a train show at the fairgrounds where Richard Abler and the Columbus Garden Railway Society were there with their public display. And we had known Richard before, and he said, "Why don't you come to a meeting?" And we did, and it's history from there. We joined, and in 96, I contacted Paul Busse, and he came out, and we sat on the swing out in the yard, and he said, "What would you like to see in a railroad?" And of course, I wanted everything. I wanted tunnels and bridges and a pond and all that. So then he came inside and looked out from the living room. I thought the front yard was the best place. So he came inside and looked out from the living room to see how the railroad would be seen from inside. And a few months later, he had a preliminary design for the railroad. The fall of 96, Richard Abler talked us into being open for we had no railroad outside at this point. But Richard says, "Why don't you open up, do something for the open garden railroad? You'll have fun doing it." By this time, our train collection had grown considerably from that original circus train. So Jack and I put about 9 circles around trees in our front yard. We had learned that with the club's temporary exhibits that we could put the track on mulch and run trains that way. So we had 9 little circles, and people came and thought it was awesome. Then in 97, March of 97, Paul Busse delivered the drawing for the layout. And in April, he started construction by doing the pond and the basic waterway that we had. And then he suggested that we organize a rail racing. We had no idea what that was like. Paul described it as similar to a barn racing, except we're building a railroad. So with his guidance, 40 members of CGRS came out and did all of the basic, the 2x6, the support for the tracks. And Paul and his crew were supervising at this at every step of the way and all that. At this point, everything was flat. Our front yard was flat. So he had 2x6s crossing each other and laying flat on the ground. And, I kept thinking, well, how is this thing going to work? And at the end of the day, Paul put stakes under to show what the elevation would be like. It was amazing. After the rail racing came tons and tons of stone and dirt. And Paul also, on one of his trips from the east, brought back rock and railroad ties from East Broad Top and the horseshoe, around the horseshoe curve. So embedded in the railroad is the little railroad history. In 98, the Columbus Garden Railway Society was doing the LGB convention. That was the goal for Paul and for us, was to get it ready to be open for that convention. So in early summer, I took a week off from work, and Jack and I put together the trestles. The first one, Paul and his crew helped us to teach us how to do it. And man, we became experts. I'd never done anything with a power tool before, and after the first little shy nail that I nailed in, I nailed hundreds of nails and made many trestle bents, and Jack sawed all those millions of pieces for the trestle. It was really fun, but that whole summer too, Jack and I laid track. Bent and laid. At that point it was about 750 feet of track. But we made Paul came with plants, I think it was like 3 days before the big event, and put in plants and finishing touches, and we were open for the convention. That was our first public opening. And it was exciting for us because the people from Germany were there, and we had visitors from all over, Australia and England, and so we just got a taste of what garden railroading was going to be. Even before the railroad, the first sound, my heart starts beating faster. I love the sound of those toy trains. I think the one thing that impressed me, a lot of our trains have like the digital sound, which is ominous. I mean, it's really a good sound. But I had a sound system put in. The first train that I bought at an auction was an Aristocrat chassis, big boy. And I had Watts put in the Phoenix sound system. And man, the first time that ran, that just went all through my body. It just has a deep, neat sound. So I guess the whole thing, the whole hobby turns me on.
By the end of the Columbus Garden Railway Society's Open Garden Tour in September of 2002, the Shelby and Sparta Railroad had seen more than 4,500 visitors. Little did they realize trouble was just around the corner. Jack Easterday wrote about it in the CGRS newsletter. On Friday, October 4th, a fierce weather front came through, packing 50-mile-per-hour prototype winds. This brought down 2 large beech tree limbs from a scale height of 1,440 feet onto the S&S main line, tearing up track and crushing roadbed and trestle bents. Tree removal personnel estimated impact forces to be as high as 10,000 prototype pounds. Track had been twisted into grotesque Halloween shapes. The 816 scale-foot curved trestle, its roadbed integrity now breached, remains in unstable condition. Crews are at a loss in devising means to repair the continuous laminated curved roadbed, which has had 2 15 scale-foot sections torn out by the crushing blow of the falling limbs. Later, Cecil explained, "We repaired the track, of course, after the storm, but I didn't try to replace the damaged trestle bents," adding the damage wasn't limited to the railroad, as a huge limb also went through the roof of their house. Over time, there have been other changes to the railroad. But unlike the tree, these changes were made on purpose to make it easier to maintain track and run the trains.
we asked Chris Myers to build a simple dog bone with no obstructions, no tunnels, so that it would be an easy place to clean off and run trains without having to worry about all the other stuff, which he did.
Really nice. I mean, she really cleaned it up beautiful.
Oh, it's awesome.
Jim Kimmel transformed part of the mining loop into what's now called the Mountain Loop. Another part of the mining loop became a point-to-point track, so no more tunnels or the headaches that often went with them.
CGRS has continued to support us in many, many different ways. We had some health issues and couldn't maintain the railroad for a while. And they came over and cleaned it all up for us. And we had a meeting, and this year I started all over again. Took everything off, killed all the weeds, and started again. And it's been fun. People were so appreciative and liked it. So it's a continuing saga. I've got about 25 more buildings to put together and paint and all that kind of stuff, but it'll happen. Bill Logan has been a tremendous help. For one thing, every time we wanted to run trains, Jack had to sit on the front step where we had a box with the power supplies in it. And every time we were open, the sun was shining strong as can be right in his face. So we talked to Bill Logan, and he came up with the idea of moving all the power supply out to a more comfortable, shady place. And that presented the possibility of a patio where this power supply would sit, as well as Jack and anybody else who wanted to sit and just watch the trains. Then he built a shed for the trains. As my imagination always goes, I pictured one long enough to hold our longest train. But when the price came in, I decided we could make do with a 20-foot shed and not a 30-foot shed. So anyway, which has made it just wonderful. All you do is open the building and bring out the trains, and when you're finished running them, you run them back in the shed, close the door, and come inside and know they're waiting for the next time. I think the best thing for both of us, the people. I have never met a nicer bunch of folks. And I started doing the fall trips, and man, talk about affirmation. Everybody's so appreciative. In 14 trips, I never had a complaint. I mean, we joked about a few things that had gone wrong, but never a complaint. And you know, things aren't perfect every time when you go traveling like that. The people took it in stride, and a new person was made to feel like part of the group. Yeah, no one's a stranger, and everybody's welcome, and everybody seems to kind of knit together. They live together for several days, so you really get to know people.
okay. Give me that flash.